Today I'm here to talk about a topic that I have a feeling might be controversial to some, but for me, it's pretty black and white and tan. I want to talk to you about tanning and how the history of white people tanning their skin is inherently linked to white supremacy. I also want to introduce you to this very weird little corner of the internet that I stumbled across called tantok.
Boo! You stink!
Now, don't get me wrong, I grew up in the early 2000s. So I remember the days when white women were putting that Maybelline Dream Matte Mousse foundation on their skin in a color that was like 3 shades too dark for them. But I don't know. Who would have thought that white people would still be doing this shit in 2024? Honestly, me, I would have thought that because white people are still consistently so unhinged. This behavior is so embarrassing. If you're putting this much time and effort into changing the color of your skin by several shades in order to feel attractive, man, does white supremacy have a hold on your thinking. To understand better what I mean by this, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into the history of tanning culture for white people in the United States and in other Western countries. So put your super sunnies on and lube yourself up with a little bit of baby oil and iodine, because things are about to get dark. Hi, I'm Maddie, and I'm just some media analysis nerd on the internet. Okay, so not surprisingly, tanning as a deliberate beauty practice is actually quite a modern trend. For most of recent Western history, pale skin was the standard of beauty amongst white populations. However, the luxury of sun protection only really was afforded to the privileged upper classes, basically the people who could afford it. Only members of the working class, people who had no choice but to work outdoors, had tanned skin. In the period around 1900, a large number of white Westerners were colonizing unfamiliar, much more sunny parts of the world that their bodies were not accustomed to, and so they would often succumb to new diseases. Because people had no concept of germ theory at the time, they thought it was the sunny weather that was causing the deterioration in their health. If only colonizers had taken this hint from Mother Nature and gone the fuck home, our world would be such a better place today. Anyways, while white doctors and intellectuals were spending their time pathologizing the symptoms that colonizers were experiencing because they were in regions of the world that they didn't belong in, a paradigm shift around sun exposure began to take place in the Western world. A variety of social forces kind of combined together to usher in this new era of sun worship that would alter the American relationship with the tan for much of the next century. During the Industrial Revolution, between the 1880s and the 1920s, the US went through massive demographic changes as more and more people left rural areas and moved to cities to work in factories. The pale white skin that was once a symbol of wealth, status, and attractiveness now came to be associated with those who worked in factories and lived in poor and working class neighborhoods that were heavily polluted by coal smoke and literally received less sunlight. Now contrast that with rich people who regularly summered at popular resorts like Newport Beach and Atlantic City. People with the privilege of having leisure time took up new outdoor activities like golf and tennis and riding bikes. A sun-kissed face and a bronzed body came to symbolize a lifestyle of affluence, recreation, and vacations to the seashore. During this same time period, medical beliefs about sun exposure were also changing in the US. Claims about the sun cure were popularized by doctors and media and quickly became part of the cultural conversations around tanning.
This man is giving his face a 6-minute exposure to Suncraft's ultraviolet rays.
So, naturally, increasing sun exposure became a public health goal, and the mainstream press instructed their readers on the benefits of sunlight.
Ultraviolet rays improve the health of the skin, and a healthy skin is a beautiful skin.
By this point, it had been pounded into the collective American psyche that if you were tan, you were hot, healthy, and happy. Not surprisingly, as the tanning craze swept the nation, sunburns emerged as a new public health concern. Unfortunately, sunbathers who wished to prevent sun scorch didn't have much technology at their disposal at this time. A variety of products were made to be sunburn preventatives, including vegetable oil, cold creams, petroleum jelly, and cellophane blankets. However, none of them were particularly effective, and some of them actually made things worse. In 1944, America's first commercial sunscreen, Coppertone suntan cream, was introduced with the tagline, "Don't be a paleface." A few years later, the sales pitch changed to, "Tan, don't burn. Get a faster, deeper tan plus guaranteed sunburn protection." You can see in Coppertone's advertising that it was never about protecting you from the sun. It was about getting you into the sun safely, aka selling you their products. As tanning grew more popular, concerns from within the medical field were growing. In 1928, it was discovered that solar radiation caused cancer in mice. By the 1930s, UV radiation was widely recognized as a carcinogen within medical circles. The US Public Health Services issued warnings about sunbathing as early as 1932. It wasn't until the 1980s that a number of large-scale sun protection PSAs were launched.
Slap, slap, slip on a shirt, slap on sunscreen and slap on a hat.
And this issue really only got media attention after doctors began to see unprecedented increases in melanoma. In the 1930s, melanoma was a rare cancer with a lifetime risk of 1 in 1,500 people. By 1985, lifetime melanoma risk for white people had risen to 1 in 150. Sun exposure was suspected as the primary factor in the emerging melanoma epidemic, and ominous warnings became increasingly common in both the popular press and medical journals. Despite the public health efforts aimed at warning people about the dangers of tanning, the allure of tan skin remained strong as ever. And the 1960s brought with it a new genre of Hollywood film glorifying the beach, the bikini, and the suntan.
Vacation is here, beach party tonight.
Pop culture's emphasis on tans was even reflected onto young people, mostly young girls, through toys like Malibu
Barbie has her own beach towel and sunglasses and Malibu friends, all with that suntan skin that makes them look great wherever they go, in any of their groovy new fashions.
Barbie, you're so dazzling. I need my sunglasses to look at you. So does Ken.
When you put suntan Dodie in the sun, her skin turns tan in about a minute.
Now she's tan. And look at the pretty suntan doodle. Hey, that's me.
By this point, capitalists had realized that they could, make a quick buck off of selling suntan lotions and swimsuits and tropical vacations. And they weren't going to stop just because silly medical professionals were obsessed with silly things like silly melanoma. So these companies made ads featuring young bikini-clad beach bunnies and tan-muscled men enjoying romance and fun in the sun.
So choose the Coppertone you need to get the beautiful tan you want.
4 luxurious moisturizers soften every fabulous inch of that tan you long to reach.
Don't hide it. Flash 'em your Coppertone tan. Flash 'em the dark tan. Flash 'em the fast tan. Flash 'em a Coppertone tan.
Get the tan you've gotta flash.
Ski's light baby oil formula lets you tan as dark as you can.
Discover the dark tanning secret of the tropics with Tropical Blend.
And for the next several decades, Hollywood would turn out a steady stream of golden girls, maintaining the image of a tan as a key element of sensuality and beauty. The travel industry also hugely contributed to the development of America's tanning practices. Before the 1950s, destination travel was so expensive that only the wealthiest Americans could do it. But with the introduction of mass airline travel in the late 1950s, a suntan in the winter became a newly attainable status symbol for more Americans than ever. Families across America embraced the family vacation, and a suntan was a valued souvenir that they could bring back from their trip. The latter part of the 20th century witnessed a rapid growth in both the sunscreen industry and the indoor tanning industry. On the surface, these two industries look diametrically opposed, right? But in reality, they are both in the business of selling exposure to UV radiation, and therefore reinforcing in the cultural psyche that tanned skin is a standard of beauty. The first suntan products appeared in the 1940s, with their purpose being to screen out the burning rays while allowing the user to still develop a tan. Not only did these early products vary greatly in their effectiveness, but the average consumer was only interested in sun protection to the extent that it would promote a painless, perfect tan. The majority of the sun care market consisted of deep tan lotions or oils that contained minimal sunscreen.
Nothing will come between you and the sun, because Ultimate Sun Oil has no sunscreens, just a lavish blend of 10 natural oils and butters.
Products that promised to intensify or encourage a deeper, darker tan would dominate the industry until at least the 1970s.
Anywhere, be as dark as you dare.
In the 1980s, as the medical community's messages about skin cancer increased, the sunscreen industry responded by modifying its market approach.
It screens out the sun's burning rays, lets the tanning rays through.
Because you think you look great with the tan, knowing it's not great for your skin.
They shifted away from saying that their products would tan you and instead saying that their products would protect you from sunburn. Sunscreens became the most rapidly growing segment of the sun care industry, increasing by 70% between 1980 and 1985. Already established brand names like Bain de Soleil, Hawaiian Tropic, and Coppertone now use their sunscreen products to promote the idealized image of bronze skin, newly presented as healthy bronze skin. The underlying message was that Americans could have it all: sun exposure, sun protection, and that healthy glow. We've seen capitalists use this playbook countless times over the course of US history. They make a product that in this case promotes an idea that is harmful to the general public, and they still sell it despite knowing they are causing harm. And then once the general public wakes up to the harm that the capitalists have been causing, they just pivot and change their product or advertising and pretend that they fixed the problem even though they know that they're still causing harm. And that's what the capitalists behind the tanning industry did. They sold the idea of a safe tan when a safe tan does not exist. And somehow that idea has endured for decades now and has helped to propel the sunscreen industry to its current behemoth proportions. Sunscreen sales in the US grew from $18 million in 1980 to an estimated $3.2 billion in 2022, and the global market for sun care products is projected to reach $23.2 billion by 2030. That's a lot of money. Despite the benefits of sunscreen, studies show that most people who use sunscreen do not apply enough of the product to adequately protect them from the UV rays. And amongst tanners, there's evidence to suggest that sunscreen might actually increase their total UV exposure by alleviating their concerns about the amount of time they're spending in the sun. Much like the sunscreen industry that profits from selling carcinogenic ideas to consumers, the indoor tanning industry has also developed a set of sophisticated techniques to counter public health warnings and fuel consumer demand for the perfect tan. The indoor tanning industry took off right before the 1980s rolled around, and by 1980 there were an estimated 1,000 tanning salons operating around the country. With growing concerns in the media about the link between UV exposure and melanoma.
Okay, the question a lot of people have, is there a safe way to tan? Because we all like that sort of bronzed, healthy look, what we consider healthy.
Any kind of tanning, tanning beds that promote themselves as being safe is really not the truth.
Tanning bed companies pivoted to using UVA-only devices and claiming they were safe, despite there being no medical evidence that they were safe, with consumers somehow believing that tanning in a bed was safer than tanning outside.
There are actually some tanning beds that are safer for your skin than the sun.
The tanning bed market boomed, and by the year 2000, at least 50,000 tanning facilities existed around the US. Popular expressions like tan fat is better than white fat and if you can't tone it, tan it, confirm that this message is being heard loud and clear by American girls and women. This kind of thinking is also perpetuated in bodybuilding circles, where it is for some reason completely normal to change the color of your skin for competition because
if we don't have a tan, it washes us out completely, just so you know.
But with the arrival of the new millennium, we have seen some kind of shift in widespread recognition of the dangers of tanning. Several decades of media campaigns have successfully established the link between tanning and skin cancer in the collective conscious of the American public.
There's nothing healthy about a tan.
Today, if you see an ad for a tan promoted in media, it's most likely that it's for a tan in a bottle. Which brings us to the concept of sunless tanning products. Sunless tanning products are $1 billion industry globally. The popularity of sunless tanning in itself highlights the discrepancy between concerns about dangerous UV exposure and the continued cultural value of a tan. We can see from many of these TikToks that people who use sunless tans also often partake in other types of tanning. And even the ones who don't are continuing to hold up this century-old cultural value that we now know is linked to white supremacy, capitalism, and junk science. On top of this, people can get addicted to the process of tanning themselves. While doing research for this video, I came across far too many examples of this, where tanning had become more than just a beauty standard for some people, and instead it became a core part of their personality, and some were even doing medically untested and dangerous things to achieve a tan.
The videos have millions of views. A glowing tan from a simple spray. Claims that were red flags for dermatologist Melissa Levine.
I was horrified. You're actually spraying a completely unregulated chemical synthetic hormone.
Melanotan 2 is a synthetic hormone sold online. It's designed to stimulate the pigment cells in your body to produce more melanin, which gives you a tan. It's claimed that with one injection, your skin tone starts to change from the inside out, regardless of the season.
Tanning culture amongst white people is more than just a toxic beauty trend. It's rooted in colonial ideals, white supremacy, and profit-driven manipulation by corporations that capitalize off of our insecurities and don't give a shit about our health. Despite us knowing the health risks of tanning for almost a century now, the allure of bronze skin has endured in Western cultures, fueled by evolving social pressures and the persistent association of tan skin with health, youth, and affluence. We're at a point where, as a society, we need to confront these norms head on. Traditional health warnings aren't enough to counter the cultural grip that tanning has on Western cultures. Only a deeper shift in beauty ideals can make a lasting impact. For white people especially, it's time to critically examine why tanning remains so appealing and consider the damaging narratives that it reinforces. Rather than upholding these outdated standards, we can choose to reject beauty ideals that were born out of colonial histories. Once you know the history behind tanning culture, the question becomes, why continue to participate in it? It's bad for our health and it's embarrassing. We each have the chance to challenge these norms and embrace our own individual ideas about beauty, free from the harmful legacies of the past. Hi, if you liked this video or learned something from it, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, or leave a comment telling me what you thought. I worked really hard pulling together all this information and analysis and would really love your support in making more videos like this. If you have the capability to support me monetarily, you can subscribe to my Patreon, which I will link below. Also, if you have the means to do so, please donate to the Nabil family from Gaza. This is a family that my friends and I have been raising money for a while now, and as things are continuing to get worse in northern Gaza, they need our help more than ever. So I thought I would bring some attention to that. I will link their GoFundMe down below as well. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching. You are a real one. I appreciate you. Bye!